the guts of the new law is to force real disclosure of the original sources of money, trying to influence the citizenry.
And Arizona voters demanded that disclosure. In an era where we don't agree on much, the Voters' Right to Know Act, Prop 211, was approved in 2022 with 72% of the vote. It was a landslide in all 15 Arizona counties, red and blue. Now we'll find out whether the new law can deliver on its promise to shine a light on the hidden donors influencing political campaigns. We're joined by Terry Goddard, leader of the Prop 211 ballot initiative in 2022. Welcome back to Square Off.
Hey, thank you.
So this was your fourth try in 4 years to get this on the ballot. You won. For folks who don't know, you're a former two-term Attorney General, former Phoenix mayor. You're a leader of the Central Arizona Project, the water board that is a steward of our water. You could have just stayed home, but you kept going. Why?
Well, because I think money in politics is, as they say, it's the root of just about everything. And I believe that you need to know who it is that's paying to bring a message to you and try to influence the election. And I believe that very strongly. So I kept at it, and I got to say, it wasn't just me. We had a large group of volunteers who stuck through 4 different efforts to try to get on the ballot. And that's part of it is how hard it is. The voters in Arizona have a constitutional right to initiative. But boy, there are a lot of hurdles that you have to overcome, and we're still struggling with a few of those hurdles. But the law is clear. It went into effect on December 5th of 2022 after the voters overwhelmingly approved Prop 211. And so disclosure is the law in Arizona.
And this is the first election year where it will be in effect. In the aftermath of the victory, you said, quote, campaigns in Arizona are going to change. How will campaigns change this year and in future years?
Well, I believe they'll change in that voters will know more. Voters have been in the dark about so-called dark money. They haven't known who some of the major supporters of propositions and candidates are. And these, we're not talking about people contributing directly to a candidate. That's passé, that's old-fashioned. They now run their own campaigns with millions of dollars parallel to the regular election. And that's what we're talking about right now, is the millions of dollars that flowed that way. Now, they have to disclose the original donor of $5,000 or more to the election effort, and just to the political advertising effort.
So right now, for example, the Support Terry Goddard Fund, if you were running,
there is none.
could register in a way that all the donors to that fund would never be disclosed.
Right now, that's been the rule in Arizona.
That has been the rule.
And the legislature's been very protective of that right to hide.
Right to hide. So what does this change? What new information will voters get, and what won't they get?
Well, basically, it'll say that there is no right to hide in Arizona. That if you're a contributor that wants to make a difference, wants to influence, put your thumb on the scale, and influence the results of an election. And I'm not talking about the $10 and $20 and $100 contributors. This has to be $5,000 or more. Then you have to give your full disclosure to the Secretary of State. Or the campaign has to give it. The donor does not.
Does this trump federal law?
No.
On 501c3s and those kinds of organizations, those so-called public good organizations?
Well, you're talking about tax law. This has nothing to do with tax law. This is basically, it says, if you are contributing to a political campaign advertising, you need to disclose who you are as either a corporation or a person. Federal law applies obviously to the federal races. The FEC covers the Senate and the House and the presidency. This only applies to Arizona because we wanted it to be big, but we couldn't get outside the borders of Arizona.
Statewide, legislative, city.
Legislative, city, down to school board,
county.
If necessary, county. But there's a threshold. The candidate or the campaign that is involved, that has to do the disclosure, has to spend $25,000 or more at a local race or $50,000 or more in a 2-year cycle for statewide races.
And so will we start to see evidence of this in the campaign finance reports that are going to be filed by January 15th?
Yes, as of this last week, the Secretary of State has the necessary information on the website so that when you're filing your campaign contribution reports, it will be clear that you have to give the original source of major contributions.
Okay, so we've seen a lot of backsliding, at least in federal enforcement of federal campaign laws. The idea that PACs and campaigns can't coordinate, that's kind of passé, right? It doesn't seem to be enforced. What is the hammer that voters, that the Secretary of State, and others have to enforce this law?
Well, we got a number of hammers. One, the Clean Elections Commission can, in fact, investigate complaints that say that a particular campaign has not divulged fully its original sources, or it's incorrectly disclosed where the money came from. That involves fines of up to 3 times the amount that is not properly disclosed. But I think the biggest one is the press and the public. Basically now there will be on the Secretary of State's website information about who the major donors were and who they really are, not some phony baloney name like Citizens for a Better Tomorrow. It's going to be the people that put their money into Citizens for Better Tomorrow so they could support a particular candidate. I think that's the big, you asked what the big change is. I think the big change is the voters will be armed with information about who's supporting the candidates on the ballot.
Does the Clean Elections Commission, does the Secretary of State have the resources to investigate this the way they should? That right now they can't even check on the residences of legislative candidates to be sure they live in the district they're running in.
Well, do they have the resources? They have resources for investigations. We had to put, that is in the statute. It provided a small amount based upon civil and criminal fines is brought in to give them the resources to do investigations. The Citizen Clean Elections Commission has a source of funds. I think it's the will is the main thing, and that's where the voters come back into this. They overwhelmingly pass this. They want to know who's behind these ads on TV and on everywhere else. The bottom line is that they need to be diligent too. It's not all going to, we're not going to be able to pass the buck to some anonymous enforcer. I think folks have to say, look at the disclosures and make your own determination about whether people are being honest.
Yeah, I do want to note, this isn't a Republican issue or a Democratic issue, both parties.
Absolutely. I never, in all the times that I was passing petitions for this proposition, never had somebody say, you know, I'd rather not know who's behind that campaign. I want to remain ignorant and I'm not going to sign. Nobody ever said that. And we're running into that over and over again on the left and the right. I mean, people say it's just good, it makes good sense. Why wouldn't we want to know all of the details about the support for a candidate or a proposition? And in Arizona, of course, all of us who have contributed to any political effort have had to disclose if we gave $50 or more. So why do the big guys, the ones who are giving millions of dollars, get to hide? I don't think it makes sense, and the voters didn't think it made sense.
So the law survived several challenges in state courts, but there is a federal lawsuit out there that's kind of been dormant for the last 6 months as the state challenges have proceeded. Is that federal lawsuit filed by Americans for Prosperity, a Koch-aligned network, is that lawsuit designed to get to the U.S. Supreme Court and have Prop 211 settled there?
I'm sure that's what's in the back of the minds of our opponents. The Koch organization and the folks behind Americans for Prosperity are the biggest dogs on the porch, and they want to protect their franchise, which is a dark money franchise. So bottom line is, I think they feel that this is something that they can ultimately weasel up to the Supreme Court. I don't think they're going to do it by winning at the various district and lower court levels. In Arizona, we've had 2 terrific judges give very solid legal opinions, and they basically left no room for doubt that this proposition is legal, that disclosure is absolutely allowed under the Constitution. In Arizona, disclosure was in our original Constitution in 1912. So it's not like we're bringing on something new. It's just we're repairing some of the damage that's been done over the years. So the voters will have the right to know who it is that's behind these candidates.
But the fight still isn't over.
The fight is, let's just say it's a fight of potholes and hurdles, and the citizen right to an initiative is a very difficult right to exercise. And if I have any huge concern over and above disclosure, which I think is critically important, it's we need to protect that right for citizens to be able to be their own legislature. And that's in jeopardy.
It's foundational in Arizona.
It absolutely is.
All right, Terry Goddard, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Brahm.